Welcome, dreamers, seekers, and everyone in between, to another awesome episode of the Dream Hub podcast. I'm Melissa Johnson, your host on this journey into the depths of the mind and the marvels of human potential. Today, I'm joined by a truly exceptional guest, Kristi Peck, a visionary in human leadership and the creator of Dreamwork by Design. Kristi's expertise spans roles as diverse as a teacher, intuitive mentor, and thought partner, all centered around unlocking the profound potential within us. Through her unique approach to dreamwork, Kristi helps people forge a nurturing connection with their unconscious mind and explore the rich tapestry of their psyche. So settle in as we dive into a conversation about transformation, understanding the self through dreams, and how to live a life fully awake and aligned with our deepest truths. Thanks for coming on the show, Kristi.
Thank you for having me, Melissa. This is so fun. I can't wait. It's like my favorite topic.
Yes,
Whenever,
me too.
whenever like my kids or like a friend will go, I have this dream. I'm like, oh my God, I come alive. I'm like, ooh, let's dig. I love it. Yeah.
Awesome. You're described as a visionary for human leadership. Can you tell us more about what that role entails?
That it just sort of came. It came about. I started to kind of, I took a little pause in my life, maybe about a year ago, and my youngest kids were going off to college, so I was transitioning this role of like mom and part-time entrepreneurial to like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do now? And I started just taking a look back into like everything I had ever done to try and like synergize, like, okay, there's a system here about how I approach my life. And maybe it's time to really approach something in a much bigger way. What have I always done that I love? And when I started to really think about it and put all these experiences together, it really was like, I've always challenged myself to like, I got trained to be a medium, right? But I didn't go down that path. And I could never understand, okay, so why? And then I would go to get training in other ways. And yet, like energy, I didn't really want to go down that path. So I was sort of like, well, I have all these experiences and all this training, but what does it really mean? And I would look at, we're all into labels here consciously. What's the label? And I'd play around with labels and I'm like, they don't fit me. Like they don't fit. I'm just really me. And this is how I approach life. I just want to bring out the potential in someone and I want them to see that potential. And I remember years and years ago saying to people, I just see things in people that they don't see themselves. I just see things. And I realized it's because I see the potential. And that is also why, as a very highly sensitive person, I hold on too long. I'm fierce in my interactions with people. Like sometimes it's like, girl, you need to get away because I'm like, ooh, because I get it. Like I get them in a way that I think some people don't even get themselves. And I know that kind of sounds freaky and odd, but that is the way. It's like I kind of walk around in this experience called life, sometimes knowing things that people don't even know about themselves. And then I have to have this argument with myself, like, shut up, you can't go and interact with people based on their potential because they don't even know their potential. So it's a really fun platform. And then in some ways, it's a challenge for me, like every second of every day. But that makes it exciting, right? I have to like I learned to navigate it.
Mm. It would be tricky to see that potential in people and not be able to just bluntly be like, stop doing this thing, do this thing. Like you could be amazing without offending them, or it must be frustrating waiting because you have to let people be ready or they want to be willing to change. And it
Oh
must
my
feel
gosh, yes.
frustrating. Like, come on.
Yes. Isn't it hilarious? So like what happens is like when people come and say, I have a dream, I'm like, let's play because see, that's like that's the threshold. That's the doorway. That's the opportunity for me. Right. And then, or if someone comes and says, I've been having this weird pain in my body. I just don't know what it means. And I'm like, ooh, you want to play around with it? Like you want to dig in there. And a lot of people that know me will accept that about me. And they're like, yeah, like they say, yeah, automatically, or they'll say, they'll be triggered by a relationship or a situation. And I'll say, you want to work it out? And, and those who really know me well enough will be like, yeah. because we just dig in and it's instantaneous that there's healing and there's mega transformation. When I have had clients or friends or people who know me say, I've been working on this for a long time. I've read every book. I've done all that. How come you just went in? And I don't know, probably because there's just something I'm open to. And so I don't really like to define it. It just is. It's just part of who I am. It's part of just my gift here on earth.
That's beautiful. Your medicine. I bet people come to you that like people that you don't really know and find themselves just blabbing and opening up to you and then being like, oh,
All
where
the
did that
time.
come from? I get that happen to me too. And people are like, I don't know why I'm telling you all of this. And I'm like, I don't know either, but
Yes.
it's fine.
Like
yeah.
I don't have a problem. I just accept it.
Yeah.
One time I was working out with this trainer and we were just going in, and I also asked questions that a lot of times people will say, no one's ever asked me that before. And I don't know, it's just this curious part of me. And so I was asking him questions and not even reacting to anything he told me. And he told me some like stuff that probably the normal person would like react to. And I was just like, huh. And he was like, he stopped and he was like, you don't react to anything. You're the only person that has never reacted to that. And I told you more than I've told other people. And I said, those are just things you do. Those are just things you did. Like, that's not who you really are. So it's that kind of vision. It's like seeing that soul in someone and seeing that's what I think the human potential is. It's the soul, it's the divine self that can get out of this human experience. You know what I'm saying? Like in a more broad visionary kind of way. And so I just think that's, yeah, like I like that idea. That's my medicine. That's just what my gift is. It's how it's my service to the world. And it's taken me a long time to come to accept that.
It
Long
sounds
time.
like with the lack of your reaction, it helped him to bring more out. And then that's showing to me that it's this no judgment, like a judgment-free zone. And I think that is what helps the soul to really come out, isn't it? It's like when we stop judging our dreams for what they're giving us, and when we know that, like when we start to not care what people think, and then it's like there's no judgment on my soul, I can just be who I'm meant to be. Sounds like you
Yeah.
bring that out.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, in the last probably 4 years, I've really come to understand that the dreams that I have at night and the way that they sort of manifest and come into my awareness, it's like a trusted partnership and it's unlike anything else. It's not the regular relationships we're used to. It's not that role defined kind of relationship. It's just a partnership that's so pure. And so if anyone says, how do you know? How do you know this? How do you know that? How do you know you made the right decision? Because I did make a life altering decision 4 years ago. And people question, they're curious, and they'll ask, well, how do you know? And I'm like, my dreams have navigated it. And that's what I have gone to, because I can't always trust how my body's responding, because I tricked my body early on to push things away. I can't always trust my mind, because my mind can drum up a story that's so wild. And I mean, it would probably win Academy Awards left and right. So we can't trust that stuff. You can't trust other people's opinions. You can't even really trust the experiences. And while I have really synchronistically fun moments with spirit in terms of like, I see hearts everywhere. Animals will come on a regular basis. I have a hawk that visits me daily, quite often. There have been other animals. It's hilarious. I mean, people find it funny when I'm sharing pictures. They're like, what? I'm like, I know, it's so funny for me. But even that I can't always trust, because then my mind's interpreting it, right? But the dream, it's just sort of like, here's a present. Take whatever you need from it and go. And no matter how you look at it, it's giving you something. So that's the trusted partnership. And that's why when I get the other sense from, about a person or about a situation, I trust that too, because it's delivered in the same way. That's how I look at that.
Wow, that's cool. So your passion project is called Dreamwork by Design. Could you explain what this involves and how you came to focus on Dreamwork?
So dreams were, I've had two scary dreams my whole life up until 4 years ago. And I don't really remember a lot of other dreams that I had growing up, but these two scary dreams all the time. And about a little over 4 years ago, about close to 5 years ago, I started having a couple more dreams, but I didn't understand dreams then. Like I was writing them down, but I was not in a good place. I was just kind of, I had just written my first book about my awakening process. And I was kind of in this, duh kind of a place where I was looking at life. My awareness was starting to build a strength to it. And I was starting to take a look at the patterns in my life and the things that I keep thinking, why am I still with this person? Or why am I still hanging out here? And why am I hanging on to this job? And why am I so miserable when like I'm looking around and I have this great life? Like I started to really question. And so I had some awareness that my upbringing was not so cool. Let's just put it that way in simpler terms. And that it was really kind of rocky. And so I went and tried everything. I tried spiritual stuff. That didn't get me answers that I needed. It was beautiful and loving and kind. And it felt like, being warmed in a blanket of sorts, but it didn't really give me all the answers. And so I started realizing, oh my gosh, I got to work on my emotions. And I knew because I was having some physical stuff go on. Literally, the doctors would say, I don't even know how you're walking. I don't know how you're functioning because like your numbers are showing that you should not even be able to function. And I was like on my fourth functional medicine practitioner and nobody could find anything. And was the final one I was with. We had done all this gut work and it was not changing. We had done all this hormonal work. It wasn't changing. And I sat in a parking lot and I started crying because I knew, okay, I have to go figure out the emotions here. And I didn't want to do it. I thought, well, if you just tell me a pill I can take and make all this go away in my body, I'll be great. Right. Because we always want that. So I started working with this practitioner and I had a dream. And the dream kind of like freaked me out. And then a few days later, I had another dream. And I was like, okay, whatever's going on here is trying to tell me something. And I started to kind of see this opening happening. And I can tell you the first dream I had was I was in a grocery store and I was checking out and I had all these supplies in my hand. And I'm walking up and there's the lady that's at the checker, the checker, and she's snarky and she's like snipping at me. And I write and when I wrote the dream out, I wrote, felt like my mother. And it freaked me out that all came through this feeling that I was having, right? Because that's attached to emotion. And then I wrote, the other person seemed to be in charge and said, oh, he's coming. The characters were all male. So again, I'm like, well, what's going on there? They're all male. And yet I'm having this emotion towards this female person. And then the male person said, he doesn't speak the language. And I thought, there's a disconnect here. There's something going on that we're not on the same playing field anymore. So then, like I said, a few days later, I have another dream. And that dream is I'm in a parking lot in a car and it's filled with a ton of cars. Well, we know cars are like this desire, right? But I can't access that. I want to get out of the car to go give a message to this character that shows up. That when this character showed up, I felt like it was the teacher. Like I'm trying to get a message to the teacher to go do something. And literally the phrase was, I'll just wait till later when it's easier. And I thought, oh my God, here are these two dreams. Like just now I got chills because that's when I became aware something is going on here. And I don't even really know what this necessarily is. So then fast forward a few months, I then have a life altering decision. And that is I estranged from my family of origin. So I had already been estranged from my father from when I was like 20 something. But now I'm gonna walk away from the rest of the family. It was very soulful. It came in so sweetly. I just was like, there was a big moment, there was an episode, and then I made the decision. So then fast forward, I started having dream after dream after, I mean, like they were coming in so suddenly. And it took me a while to realize, okay, the two dreams that I had had all growing up, I wasn't having them anymore. So the one dream was a falling dream. I stopped having the falling dream. It has never even occurred in 4.5 years. It's gone. So that was alone was like, oh, wow. Again, I'm just getting curious. I'm keeping notes. I'm writing everything down. I'm digging into understanding. I don't get all this right because I'm also healing from a very lived experience and I'm dismantling something that I don't even know what I'm going through because it all came in so like a whirlwind. So then the other dream that I had had growing up was about snakes. And this snake was always, it would jump at me and bite me, like this fear of something coming at me and biting me. I've never had a snake dream like that before. The snakes now are calmer. They maybe come, but they try to bite, but they're more like they don't even have teeth. They're more like they're just kind of like gnawing like babies do, you know? It's the funniest thing. They crawl up my legs sometimes in dreams, but they don't do what they used to do. So that's when I say that dream was a trusted partner through this healing process because it's the only thing I had to go on that said, okay, something is going on here. So just trust this. You can't really trust everything else because it's confusing, right? Our conscious mind can confuse us, but this is coming from something that's just pure and divine. So believe it. And that sort of kind of started me down this curiosity about dreams. So I started reading and taking courses, and I got certified with a group that I got certified to be a Jungian life coach. I also got certified in the Dreamwork. So I started learning about, okay, let me play with my dreams. And then I found other people and learned about their approach to dreams. And I just started like incorporating everything I could and applying it every time I would have a dream. And it's been pretty remarkable to watch because there was a phase. So the dream work was in layers. It didn't just come in and start telling me what to do. It had to heal and dismantle the trauma first and get me to a safer space to when then I think my truer self could then start to flourish. So some of the dreams were very violent in the beginning, almost to the point like they scared me in a way, but only because I didn't want to tell anybody about them. Like I've never really told people. A handful of people that I was taking classes with, they kind of knew, but they scared me so much because they were violent. I mean, like a mother figure beating the crap out of a young boy figure while a dad watched and a brother watched. And I was watching all this. And in the beating, like the dad figure said to me standing there, can you just do what you're told? And then I'm watching the violent physical beating going on. And I'm seeing the life force go out of the eyes of the young. Like when you wake up from something like that, that's pretty intense. But something again immediately was trust, like that trusted partner was also speaking because I feel like our dreams sort of like they are that higher self. So they're like the intuition and the inspiration and the imagination. And it was offering me, it's okay. This is okay. You're just working through this. You have to see it before you can accept it, before you can move through it and heal it. And so some of the dreams were very violent in that way. And being able to witness my dreams for me always were people I knew, because again, I had to trust that it's not about this person, but you trust this person. So this person can deliver you the message. So for me, that's how they came in. So if I had a dream and it was about my kids or my husband or a best friend or a grandparent, it wasn't really about them. And I didn't really get tripped up on that because I knew that immediately something was saying to me, your dreams are just showing you people you know that you trust and you care for because someone needs to deliver this unconscious message to you so that you can see your conscious life in a different way. So that's kind of how I found it. I started working with people and realizing there's not just one approach when a dream comes about for a person. If we just have one process, we're not delivering it. It's really, we've got to do dream work by design based on who that person is, their experience, their dream itself. Because even my dreams now, I can go back and think, oh, there's probably 10 other messages I could have gotten out of that. But this is the one that was guiding me that time.
Wow. It's amazing. I absolutely love hearing this. It's so interesting. We actually have like a really similar background story. Like, I
Oh,
was
we
like 5
do?
years ago, that's exactly what happened to me.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
I love it.
Like, I
I
wonder
love
what
it.
happened at that time. It was just like an awakening for all of us.
Yeah.
Dreams were like, we're coming to get you.
Yeah, because it unfolded. I mean, I have books and books and books of them written down, and I never wrote anything before. Like I said, the only two dreams I ever remember ever having were the falling dream and the snake dream. And they would come about in moment. And now it's so remarkable to see the transformation in the dream
I was about to
state.
say, I loved hearing that when you took action from your dream, how then they just all started flooding in with more. Because that's
Oh
what I
yeah.
say to people. That's what I noticed in my life. Like, I will trust my dreams and I'll take action on my dream. Like, every day I try, like, whatever my dream was last night, if there's a message in there, I'm going to try and take action on it. And
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
life has just like completely changed, like exploded. And it's like the only thing I'll trust now. I'll be like unsure. I'll be like, oh, ask me tomorrow. Like, I need to go to sleep and like dream on this and see. So
Well,
yeah,
and I don't know about you, but here's where I struggle with the dream stuff. I haven't been able to truly ask my dreams anything. It's a trickery thing because if I like take a piece of paper and write down a question, I don't dream at all. If I just leave it, right? So leave it open, I get so much that's about the exact stuff we're looking like my life, and it's so deep and it's so um like forceful in a way, but in a beautiful, forceful way.
Do you
It's
think if you're writing it down, then it's sort of like, you know how you write down your to-do list and once you've written it down, you can forget about it? And if you're
yeah,
writing it down, you kind of are forgetting about it and then going to sleep. Whereas when I ask a question to my dreams, I don't write it down, but as I'm falling, like as soon as my head hits the pillow, I'll think of my question and I'll just repeat my question over and over and over again until I fall asleep. And then it's like sinking
interesting.
in.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always thought about it for me. It's Kristi, you got to trust. You got to
Yeah.
trust. We already know. We already are here. You don't need to ask anything because when you ask, you start to doubt. When you ask, it's because you don't know and you're getting worried and all those those basic sensory type fears and emotions and all that stuff. And that's what I felt like for me, because dream work and dreaming for me is a modern spiritual practice. It's like my new prayer. I used to pray a lot, and now it's like I just let this be the prayer. So it's sort of like when it comes in and I write them out, it's like me sitting here with these words I wrote on paper, and it's the beautiful prayer. And we kind of go in, and I feel like me and these words were having this conversation, and then they become alive as if they're sitting here and we're all talking. And it's a very I'm going to use the word spiritual, but it's very esoteric. It's very um somatic. It's very like I'm so embodied in it that if I'm in that and my family will walk by and see, they don't bother me. They know that I'm like in this world with my dream, and we're chatting up with symbols, and I'm just asking the symbols more questions, and we're having this conversation. So for me, I'm going to have to try that technique of just not writing it down necessarily and just kind of letting it float open. And see what that is. But for me, I know that it's been more of like this trusted thing. It's like, this is
Letting
what you're here
go.
to do, is letting go. And we're going to give you what you need, and just trust you're always going to be fine. And
Isn't it
sometimes
so
I don't like it,
nice? Oh yeah, so
but
yeah, you don't always get what you want.
no, sometimes they give me a dream and I go, well, I don't really like that one. Can you like give me I didn't really like the way that turned out. What does that mean? And then I have to sit there and like face it.
Yeah. That's not always easy. So
No.
you emphasize human-centered design for your work. Like, what does that look like in practice?
So when I'm working with someone or designing, I love creating workbooks and writing. I'm always very consciously aware that, you know, it's the old phrase, we're the spiritual beings in this human body, right? And so it's so easy to just get really, really caught up in one or the other. And I think the challenging, exciting, engaging way to living life fully alive is, okay, how do we do both? So I tell people I'm a little woo woo, but I'm a little like, I'm going to flip you off and call you a name because I'm both. I'm not one or the other. And I'm not going to like push my human stuff aside, right? The fact that I get triggered, the fact that I get mad at people, the fact that I don't like certain things, or I don't want to hang around certain people, or I don't want to read certain stuff or watch, whatever that is, right? The fact that I have this voice that says, "Oh my God, I don't like the way you look and I don't like your hair today," or whatever. Like, but I'm also this other part that knows it's pure and knows it's very aware that there's this other divinely like perfection going on. And so when I say human centered, it's like, let's just focus on you and what you need. And let's just give you, because I have all these modalities, I feel like I'm sitting here almost like, okay, I'm going to age myself out in this word, an encyclopedia per se of all this stuff available that I can offer someone. And depending on how they come to me, here's what we're going to give you. So I don't follow formats and processes. I'm like, I just show up. And I think Jung said that. I think it's his quote that's like, when you're working with someone in that service oriented kind of space, just be a human to a human, just be a person to a person, right? So that's what I mean by human centered. It's like, what do you need? What's going on? What do you need? And let me give it to you. Or let me hold space so that what you need, you can figure out,
Mm.
because I'm going to hold space for all the stuff you can't muddle your own self through. So that's what I feel like my work is really here for, is just to be there. I just show up. And a
Mm.
lot of times you're right. Like, people will divulge stuff to me in the grocery store. My daughter laughs. She's like, why are you always stopping and talking to people? I'm like, they stop and talk to me. They tell me stuff. Like, I don't know. But I think it's just because I'm here. I'm just very present. I've been like that for as long as I know. And I like to just give people what they need. So when I'm crafting workbooks or writing, I'm just very tuned in to like the pulse of the world, right? What's going on? Where are people at? What do I see every day? So like, here's an example. I went to go visit my son at his college a couple weeks ago for a mom's fraternity weekend. And I was just watching. I love just sitting there and watching people, and I tune in and take in a lot of stuff. Well, there was a conversation between some moms and their boys, and then people sitting around. And it was all about these young men who take care of their moms. Their moms were single, and that's very honorable. And then I was listening to the moms and how they were talking, and and then I start getting these intuitive hits. So then I come home, right, and I'm crafting some writing around these intuitive hits around, the persona, or how we project stuff on our kids, how I project on my kids, how we are constantly all projecting those shadows. And then I'll have this dream that just kind of came alive to show me different parts of the projections and where we are. And so it's just this beautiful, where I can take my lived experience and use it for crafting and weaving this beautiful tapestry of my work, which is helping people, serving others, writing, crafting workbooks, creating stuff that I think is fun for people to look at.
Wow. You have such a great connection with like source, the universe. Like your intuition and everything, and you'd obviously have, that's why you would have such strong emotion and feeling. It's because it's like you're so sensitive to everything. That would make you like the best therapist for someone to come to. Like, I think I'm obsessed with you. I love it. I hate going to a therapist and it's like they've got their checklists and they ask questions and you're like, how does that question even relate to what I just told you? And then you feel
Right.
unseen and unheard. But it sounds
Right.
like what you're doing is, even just by giving that like undivided attention, is the medicine in itself. That's sometimes all that someone even needs, you know? So that's amazing.
Yeah, you know, I knew years and years ago, my first job was teaching. So I taught as an elementary teacher, and then I went into special ed, and then I was a mentor for the teachers, and progressed, and then in doing my own work with adults. And even back then, it was just showing up for kids, giving them what they needed, creating. I remember digging into research because I had a couple kids that weren't learning. Okay, let me go figure out why. Like I'm obsessed with my own way of doing it. And it has always worked because it serves people and it serves them well. And you're right. I think the biggest thing I offer, one, is showing up, and two is serving the person sitting in front of me. What do you need? And let me figure it out for you. And I'm kind of obsessed with myself. I don't know. I think I'm pretty cool. No, just
Good.
kidding.
Yes. See, I see the potential. I'm a bit like you. I'm always like, be your best self.
I
Like,
know. I know.
love
I know.
yourself.
I know. And well, the other thing about me is, like, I'm really funny in a lot of ways, but like I can't be inauthentic. Like I just don't even know how. Like I try sometimes and I can't. In fact, my daughter, okay, she would kill me if she knew I was telling you this. But like when I went to go visit her for a mom's weekend, she like gave me orders. You have to have a good attitude. You can't roll your eyes. You can't make comments because, see, she knows. I said, well, you just took away my personality. What am I supposed to
here,
do?
wear this mask.
I know.
Poor
And
thing.
she
She
was
must have
like,
a few
Mom.
embarrassment bones in her body.
No, she
We just need to
does.
break him. She'll be right.
And she's like, oh, whatever. It was great. No, we had a great time.
That's
But it's funny that she was like, I'm putting you in your place for this one moment of my life for you. It was just funny. It made me laugh, but you know, it's just and so for me, doing the work with my clients or whoever I'm helping, I love helping friends and my family. My daughter's friends will come with me. When I was there, they're like, Mrs. Peck, we had a dream. Can you help us figure it out? Of course we can, right? Of course we can. And the other thing that I think I offer people is, I'm never going to tell you what to do. I'm not even going to tell you what your dream means ultimately. I can tell you what some symbols mean, or maybe what they kind of mean. But the reality is, I'm helping you know yourself better. Like I'm opening that channel for you to know yourself so well that you love yourself and you're wanting that connection with yourself. Because I don't want to be everybody's person. That's not what I'm here for. But I am here for you to get to know yourself better, because I do think that's truly the gift.
I agree. I agree so much. I love your passion that you've got coming through around this. I feel it. It's this fire. We're on fire. I love it. Now,
I know,
I want
it's
to
kind of
hear.
crazy.
So you've just written a book. It's not yet published, but I want to hear a bit
Right.
about it. Like, what are some key insights or like aha moments from your book that you could share with us?
So, during these, since that life altering decision to estrange from my family of origin 4 years ago, I had a lot of writing, because writing for me is very therapeutic, right? It's very self-serving. It's very connecting for me. I channel through it. It just kind of comes out. So along that way, I had kept all my dreams. I was writing different chunks of experiences. So different time, there was some, like when I said early on, there were some violent things that came through. There was a moment when I was sitting in my bedroom, just kind of having a moment, quiet moment, and I heard this voice, and it was not nice. It was deep, it was funky, it was not nice. It scared the yee out of me, and I literally like jumped off my bed, and I was looking around to see if someone was in the house with me. So I had moments like that, and then I would just go write about them. So I was keeping all the information, and then along the way I had this idea, and it's morphed when I sat down and finally realized couple months ago, I said, I need to write. Like it needs to come out of me. There's something here in me that still needs to emerge. So I gave myself a commitment of 55 days. And someone said, why 55? And I said, well, 55 is like number for change. And I knew something had to change. And I also looked up like what the number of pages for a nonfiction book would be, and then divided it by if I wrote 1,500 words, because that's like a little essay every day. What would that be like? So the number 55 days. Okay. So I showed up for 55 days and wrote. And I didn't know what the title was. I had an idea, like I had a metaphor I was working from, and I'll tell you what that is in a minute. So every day I just got up and I wrote at the top of the page, the story, day whatever. And I just started writing and I just let things just come through. So some very interesting moments came through that shocked me. So part of what happened was this metaphor that I had started to work from a couple years ago, it kind of came to me was I had done some work, some EMDR work in the very beginning to work through some intense emotional stuff, right? And then I started working with a practitioner and we did some EFT, some tapping work. And so that sort of helped calm my body. And then I found Richard Schwartz's work with the parts. And I started kind of thinking about that. But my dreams were showing me something different, not just the parts, but they were showing me these archetypes that were coming through, like the healer came through. And I knew who this character was because this character is a healer out in the world. So I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. I keep having these characters of healers come through. Okay, who's coming through? Who's here? And I would have these conversations. It would be this healer in you. Okay. So then, a little bit later, I had another archetype show up. It was the archetype of the explorer. Okay, well, what's going on here? Because again, it's a character that will resemble that, right? So I started realizing there's more to these dreams than just helping me process something that's going on or telling me what to do. Something is actually ancient coming through. Something is actually helping me in these generational patterns that have been here for lifetimes. Oh my gosh, okay, wait a minute. I've got to figure this part out. So I just kept writing and I kept at one point during those 55 days early on, I realized, oh, wait a minute, my dreams need to come through. So I started pulling my dreams and fitting them into, quote, the story. So the metaphor that I was also working from was called coming to the table. Because for me, the table started representing the heart. And the archetypes were these people at your table coming through your heart that help you show up in life, nurture, nourish, have conversations, connect, like all the stuff we do around a table, right? A community of table. So it wasn't just about like getting business done. It was about nurturing the essence of who I am coming to this table. So I have this metaphor I'm working from, but I'm writing the story. So I realize, oh my gosh, we all have a story. We're living a conscious story and an unconscious story. And maybe that all needs to be merged together. So right now it's literally sitting there. It's about 100,000 words. It's like raw. I'm delving back into it to figure out like, well, where is this going? Because it all came out so miraculously. I will also tell you, I have never once dreamt about my dad, never once. And in the middle of writing, I had some writing coming through about the father archetype. And I was pissed off because he left when I was 17. And then I chased him for about 10 years. And then I finally was like, you kind of need to go. I can't do this with you because this is not healthy for me, right? I was like 28. It was right before my wedding. Well, in the middle of writing, I had a profound moment where I literally felt my body was coming unglued. I had a horrible day. I was like snipping at my husband. I was writing real, just ragey kind of stuff, right? Well, I go to bed that night and I have this most miraculous dream. It was, I am in my grandmother's house and I am surprising them at a dinner party and it's dark And I go into the house and it's all decorated for this dinner party. There's like a chef and then an organizer, and my grandma, I see her, but she doesn't see me because she's busy with trying to get everything on the table and all. And I'm just kind of nervous, but I'm excited. And I turn around and I see my dad. And like I said, I've never dreamt about him. So I walk over to him and he kind of looks at me, and he's got two things in his hand. He's got a cup in one hand and he's got papers in the other. And he's looking around and he can't figure out where to set them down. So he just looks at me again and we hug while he has these things in his hand. And in the dream, I just released and realized, oh my God, you could never be what I needed from you because you couldn't set your own stuff down. You couldn't fill your cup and you couldn't set your contract down. And at that point, he kind of excuses himself and he walks off into the house. And I walk out of that house, out into this beautiful backyard that's filled with lights and music and people are dancing. And I enter into this new space. And I woke up from that dream like, I think I just forgave that part of me and accepted a new spiritual path in terms of that. So the writing just kind of, that experience found itself. There was another one about a child, like my inner child went through another experience while I was writing. The dream, that's when the dreams really sort of came to that's when I could see the weaving that they had provided for me from the very beginning back in 2019 until now. Because the character of the mother in the dream, while she was very violent in the beginning, like the one I talked about, she changed. So she went from that violent to just maybe snipping at me and me yelling at her, and us having these arguments and me learning how to advocate for myself, to now she shows up. She's either just in the space sometimes, not talking, she's just sitting there, or she actually just recently this week showed up and she actually asked to be of service to me. So I realized that physical mother, the soul part of me, is now forgiving her, and that has transformed. And now the mother archetype in me can now begin to nurture myself, my whole self, in a different way. So that the writing of the story within the story, whether I use the metaphor or not in some way, like I know it's all kind of going to be woven together in a beautiful tapestry of a story within a story, because I think that's kind of what our life is anyway, is a story within a story. So it's unfolding in that way. But I don't know if you've ever written a book, but you got to like write it and then get in there and you got to get messy with it again. And it has different versions that keep coming. So somehow we're going to land somewhere. I'm just not sure exactly where. But it was a really cool experience to see how my dreams have, again, like just provided me this beautiful landscape for this journey of walking from a past into the now with the hope of a future. Because now the dreams are more like, oh my gosh, we're showing you this beautiful thing that can now come about. So it's been so healing, so transformative.
I love when people get that experience of being able to have some closure with someone through a dream, like someone that you can't actually communicate with in real life, and being able to have that just for yourself to be able to move on. And now you might have a seat at the table for the father figure in your dreams a little bit more, maybe.
Yeah, like I don't know, maybe I can tell you that part of this beautiful healing that I went through, that I do not think I could have gotten to this loving, kind place if it wasn't for my dreams, because my human self was mourning, was grieving, was mad, and still to every once in a while can get very ragefully ignorant in a way, like go away. Of course, I was, there's trauma there. There's dysfunction there. There was betrayal there. So of course that's how the human part of me is going to respond. And the human doesn't want to let go of that, right? So if it wasn't for my dreams showing me a more divinely guided process here that I could sort of see the contrast in, and then it's a choice. It was like a constant choice of like, I'm going to choose that aspect and I'm going to choose that because again, like I said, it was the thing I could really trust the most. I couldn't trust anything else. I couldn't even really trust the rage that I felt because I thought, well, what if I'm wrong? You know what I mean? It's that ego that's constantly like giving you all the questioning just to be self-serving. So the dreams were always showing me this is changing, this is transforming, this is shifting. Look at how loving people this can be. Like, and you're right. It doesn't mean my choice is like, oh my gosh, let me run back into experiences. But I knew, and that's the other part of coming to the table was that within our heart, we have to begin to cultivate a loving relationship with the mother, the father, and the divine child within our own heart. It's not about the roles we play out here or those identities. It's about, is it here? That's your wholeness. That's your wholeness. Two people, right? Masculine, feminine, and then the other thing here. So that would be the child piece. So it's like, that's the heart. And if you think about the heart moving, like that's the three parts. So when I could see that in my dreams being cultivated in my heart and feeling that sense from source and my guides and my angels that I work with, it all helped me to just, again, be loving and kind and wishing people well even when the human experience means we're going to be separate. There's something that's still soulfully there that's allowable.
I love that. It's crazy how we can feel like resentment and like hate and so negative and like have our walls up because we want to protect ourselves. Like, I don't want to let people into my heart. And then dreams can come in and just show you a totally different perspective. But because we're experiencing it and feeling it, it's true to us.
Yeah. I think this is what you might be saying. So there was a period, an experience, and I'm being very clear about it's an experience because it physically happened, and this was my perception of the way my body responded. So there was an experience a couple years ago. Again, I'm estranged from my family of origin, but I had young kids still in high school, and one of my kids was in playing a sport, and my mother and my stepfather showed up, and my body started to react, and I was like, ooh, oh wait, okay, I'd had enough time between these interactions. This was like probably the first one in a couple of years. So I started going, wait a minute, my body is reacting to something. This is pretty interesting, right? Because that's the human. The human body is going to protect and it's going to safeguard you and it's going to give you a sensation. And I didn't know how to read it. And it was kind of shocking to me because I'm very tuned into my body, right? I have this incredible connection to source, angels. I can feel people. I can work with someone and feel in my body what's going on in them, right? Some different sensations. And yet I was having this physical reaction. So I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Okay, I gotta go. And I said to my husband, I gotta go home. Like I know this, my kid's playing a game, but I gotta go home. I'm not good right here. So I ended up kind of getting away from it all. And I had to work through that physical stuff, like calming my nervous system down and breathing and asking myself questions and kind of, okay. And then you have a dream will come in and it will just be like, that was probably the first time I started to the experience of her, of the mother figure. And I'm being very careful. Yes, it was her showing up in my dreams, but that was just the mother figure, not her. And it helped me then separate out, here's this lived physical experience I'm having that's in direct contrast to what's available and capable and pure. And now within this neutrality, I get to decide how I want to feel. And what I want to feel is more of this over here, right? And not this. Okay, so that's going to make a hard decision I got to make. That's got to come with a harder decision because this is the way this is, because that's a choice on that person's part. but this is where I have now empowerment and agency over, wait, I want to create something. So I think that might be what you're talking about. It's like the dreams come in and they can give us a contrast. And that's where the wealth of availability to, like, these are your choices and it'll all be okay.
Yeah, and the choices are sometimes really, or you think that they're really hard, but your dreams have got your back. And it's like, if
Yes.
you don't make the
Yes.
choice, they're going to keep coming and telling you in different ways and like keep telling you
Yes.
the same thing over and over again until you do the thing. And then
Yes.
they'll like reward you in some way, or like something
Yeah.
amazing will happen in your waking life. Well, yeah, you get more beautiful dreams start flooding in, but it's like so comforting that
Yeah.
they've just got your back and then you know you've done the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Mm.
you know, the dream, the thing I love about the dreams is they're funny because they're so darn bizarre that, again, like the other night I had a dream where I was in this desert and there was this little girl just bopping around. She had a sucker in her hand. She's bopping around, having a good time, running around, and she runs and she falls into this like ditch, like the abyss. And so I went running after her, right? Because now I have this nurturing part of me that's now cultivated. And I run after her and she's running towards me and she's still in a body. When I go to pick her up and I look down, it's just a foot. And I'm hugging a foot and I'm talking to a foot. That's just a foot. And then I realize, oh my God, it's just a foot. Where's the rest of your, you've been dismembered. Oh my God, we got to go get you. And the entire dream, as I'm going to get her in the abyss, a Black Panther comes into the dream. Okay. I woke up laughing. I'm like, really? Like, what the heck? But again, like the Black Panther is about instantaneous healing. And I was experiencing some really intense foundational stuff that I needed to shift and change. Well, that's the foot. And that's the dismembered from your foundation. And you got to build, like, okay, what do you want me to do? Well, see, there's that spiritual practice for me. It's sitting there in the morning, and the prayer is, help me find my way. Help me, show me what you want me to do. Help me find my way then here as I'm rebuilding. Show me how to rebuild this. And like a song will pop into my head, or the answers will come, or I'll just write. I'll just start writing. And it's like these beautiful things that I can go do. And instantly it was like, oh, wow, wow, this is so miraculous. So I feel like the dreams are the things I can just rely on. I can count on them in a way that no human can ever be that for someone.
Mm, yeah, definitely. So your dreams, you're saying they made you more nurturing in your waking life as well. Like how did your emotions and like your ability to handle yourself change in your waking life when you started doing dream work?
I started tuning into how I felt in the dream and how I felt waking from the dream, how I felt when I went to rewrite the dream in the morning. And then if there was any other emotions coming about, like if it was an emotion from another character, and I started just paying attention to kind of like clustering things together. Oh, wow, this character. So for instance, when I talked about the mother figure in my dreams and how she was very violent in the beginning and then she started changing along the way, right? So I started realizing, well, in some way, dreams are biodirectional, so they're reflecting me too. So while I think I'm also healing from these lived experiences, it's also showing me aspects about myself. So maybe I was raging in the beginning and now I am also softening and becoming more nurturing. And so I would use those emotions to kind of create a new self dialect for myself in a way that I could talk to myself and own an agency about my emotions and use them, and started to then ask questions. Is this even mine? Am I rooted here? Is this who I want to be feeling? Is this what I want to be feeling? And then tuning into, well, is this showing up in my body or is it showing up in my head? Because some emotions were showing up in my body and some emotions were way up in my mind. And I could feel the difference sometimes as I was playing with the dream.
That's a
I
really
feel
good
like doing
question to
dream work is like a
ask.
playground. Like you just play, you're like on a playground playing with it. So when I could see the contrast taking place, that helped me cultivate a different agency.
That's a really cool question to ask. Wow, I like it. Well, actually, I had a dream about a generational thing the other night. So maybe I'll just tell you my dream and then we can
Oh,
talk
come
about
on, let's do this. It's gonna be fun. We'll probably talk
So
about all three of those things.
I had a dream the other night. It was in the liminal space, just like a snippet. And it was so visually interesting, but then the deepness of it just had me going, whoa. And I think it's all to do with generational patterns or just generations. So basically, it was me and I had a zipper up across my head. And so I unzipped my head like a handbag almost and opened it up. And my inside was all these other little people that were sitting on top of each other's shoulders, like stacked up, like sort of like my spine, but going down. So I pull my body away and there's just all of these people stacked onto each other. But as I looked, my eyes followed them all and they went down and then they went down into the earth, almost like tree roots, like down into the center of the earth. And there was just like tons of little people all on top of each other. And I thought, oh, wow, well, that's, to me, it felt like those are like my ancestors, like my line of generations going down into the earth. And that was it. So there wasn't any like other characters or talking or anything. It was just one of those liminal space visions. And I was like, whoa, that was cool.
That would have been a totally cool, totally cool. So if you think about it, okay, okay, I'm going to ask you because you said like a handbag. Like when you think of a handbag, give me some defining descriptors for
Oh,
what a
yeah.
handbag is.
Yeah, where you hold on to all of your stuff so you
Okay.
don't lose it. That's probably like all I need to say almost to describe that.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Okay. So I asked that because when I'm working with someone in whether it's just, you know, helping them in any way capacity, whether they've got pains in their body, whether they've got experience and they're getting triggered, whether they just feel stuck and can't get anywhere, or whether we're really just talking about a dream, right? I always listen for it's the little thing. It's the little thing that they just kind of
Gloss
pop
over.
in there.
Yeah.
Okay, not the bigger descriptions. It's the little thing because that's giving me insight into where their self, the bigger self, wants to go. So when you said like a handbag, okay, when nothing you talked about we had anything to do with a handbag, other than I guess we could say zipper might or whatever.
Yeah.
But so I started there because you said like a handbag is it holds everything. You don't want to lose it, right? It holds everything and you don't want to lose it. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I meant
So,
like you don't want to lose your stuff because usually I'll walk around with like keys and lip gloss and my wallet and stuff, and then I'm
right. It
losing
holds
things. So
all
you
the
put it all in
important
together
stuff.
so you don't lose everything else. Yeah.
Right. It holds
Yeah.
all the
All
important
the
stuff,
things. Yeah.
all the things, and we don't. Okay. So if you think back to your dream, right? You're covered in something and you unzip it. So what do you think that if you had to describe that, what is that, like a costume
Yeah. So
casing?
yeah, that was also what it felt like, was like my body was like a costume that, yeah. And it was just opening it.
So couple things when we're talking generationally, and I'm not going to go into my normal ask you questions that would take too long, but I'm just going to fly into it. Generationally stuff, generational patterns can help us, aid us, provide us this deep wisdom, right? So, like a purse, it holds all the important stuff that you don't want to lose, right? So, just the other day, I went with my husband to this little section of our town that holds all these Italian restaurants and Italian shops and Italian stuff because I had a grandmother who was 100% Italian and I wanted to get back into some root-ish. I was having some root stuff and I wanted to feel connected. So, the roots of who we are, the roots of our soul, the roots of our experience here on earth, and generationally what we've brought forward is this aspect of what you've unzipped and these characters lining up, right? So generational patterns can help us with wisdom and traditions and insight to kind of know who we are and live a bigger purpose. Generational patterns can also harm us and hurt us if they have been locked down and tightly wound and not free and not liberated enough, right? To then they become restrictive. And so we can't speak up. So in your dream, okay, if you and I were working through that dream, right, we would want to uncover what's happening in your life to know it could be one or the other or both, because a generational pattern that's restrictive is calling you forward. All those people that lined up are saying, hey, we are here and we now want expression in your life. So you maybe had just uncovered creative expression from generationally that were never allowed to have that expression. You may have also uncovered traditions and ancient wisdom coming through you at this lifetime for you. That's two different roles you can play, two different purposes necessarily. Then you also said they were stacked up and going down into earth. So when we talk about, like, when I help clients and help people learn root cause analysis, it's let's get to the origin of where that is, whether it's an emotion that you don't understand, a belief that's limiting you, an action that you just keep doing over and over and it's not serving you and you know it. Okay, then let's get to the root and origin. Let's get to the origin or the root of that, because it started somewhere for some reason. And what's so aha for me is when I'll be working with someone and they'll just be like, they never thought. They'll have such an eye-opening moment because they never really put it all together in that way. So when we help them with what's called root cause analysis, is going back into those moments. You don't have to like go live the moment, but you do have to kind of like take a bird's eye view of it so that you can dissect it, dismantle it a little so that you can give it air and then find where the pulse is, because now you can reprocess that moment, see it differently. You know, so many of us that come from trauma or dysfunction or lack of a life, I call it, from early on, you know, we walk around with these deep-seated beliefs rooted in us, in our bodies, of I'm not good enough and no one wants to listen to me and no one cares what I have to say and no one shows up for me, right? So when we can get to those moments and then cultivate and understand the generational piece, you know, I am like I am because something was projected onto me, and the exact thing that I'm feeling, that person was feeling it too, and then something was projected onto them. And if you can see that, we're now developing compassion. So then we can be forward thinkers of compassion for people. We can still make a decision not to be around someone or something or an experience, move out of town, take a new job, right? Have kids, not have kids, like dress a certain way, act a certain way. We can make all those decisions, but we can do it now with a compassionate heart because we understand that we are really more alike than we are different. And so when I work with people, it's let's take a look at generationally what's going on. Where's that? And again, it's because there is a little nugget of something said that I can follow it. And that is, again, it's my connection to like the source I work with. But also I think it's the way that I am just built to understand, well, let's get to the bottom of that. Let's get to the bottom of that. Because here's the thing, if we can get to the root cause, boom, we can solve that issue in a heartbeat. We don't have to be here for 100 years. Figuring something out. So root cause, generational piece, the embodied part is to so many, I see this in a lot of women, they are leading with their head and not with their bodies and their hearts. And not just women, but I see a lot of people that are like leading their families, leading communities, leading organizations, leading groups of people, right? Who are leading by the way of what I think I need to be doing, what I think I should be doing, what I think I'm told to be, the role I have to play. I see a lot of wives being the good girl, right? Because they were the daughter as the good girl, and now they come into the wife as the good wife, and then they project that on their children as the good kid, and then it's like, and we're just creating these experiences. I see a lot of women leaders in their own companies and in their own organizations where they're leading to prove and to, I can do all of this. See, I can be a single mom and I can go get my doctorate and I can develop all these things and I can do all this stuff and I can have all this and I'm all this. And then you're like, yeah, and you're sick. Like, yeah, and you're not, you know what I mean? You're not tuned in.
You're not
You don't,
genuinely happy. You're needing to take a
you
Valium at the end of
haven't,
the day.
yes, you have to
Yes.
drink a glass of wine to calm down at night. Like, let's be real about what's happening. So what I see is to help this approach of like embodied leadership is it's really helping the divine feminine emerge. Are you nurturing and nourishing your soul and your emotional landscape and your dream life? Because that's going to cultivate you a much higher, wiser form of leadership where you actually can lead your people to where they need to be, lead your organization, your group, your client, whatever that is. If we can take care of ourselves in a much better way, instead of taking care of everyone else and then we fall apart at night because we're out there trying to prove ourselves. And I don't like, I even say that divine feminine very lightly because I don't want to get into that argument about, oh yeah, we're in a masculine world. No, we're not. We are in an uncompromising position as the feminine because we have never cultivated it. Let's just be real. We've always cultivated that more masculine side because that's the one that has the agency for choice and logic and reasoning and to make the choice, right? Protection. That's always been that. So it's just a matter of step into your fullness. And that means cultivate that more generous side. And if we can learn to listen to our bodies more wisely, our bodies will tell us. You know, we as women, we think we got to get everything done before we can relax. And my approach is, why don't you relax and then get everything done? Because you'll get the right things done for you and it'll work for everyone. I had a lady tell me one time, this was probably back in like 2018, I think it was. She said, Kristi, and this was like early on in my journey of like uncovering so much stuff. And she said to me, what's good for you will be good for everyone else. That was monumental. And I have literally used that as almost a daily mantra. What is good for me will be good for everyone else. And when I stick to that and operate from my heart and really tune into this aligned version of like head, heart, body, all of a sudden it does. It just works for everyone else. And they rise. People rise and they do what they need. And I'm like, this is really, really nice. This is really nice. So it's helping in that way. And again, there's no format. I don't follow process. It's just helping people tune into themselves and saying, what is your body calling you to do? What is your mind calling for you? What is your heart wanting for you? Let's help you make that happen.
That's beautiful. I love it. That's very like holistic, and you're right. There's just so much there. There's so many different aspects within us and different layers of us, and we're like ignoring some, and we need to like nurture other parts and just become whole.
Yeah.
And I know I'm a mum of two. My life completely changed when I started to put myself first. Like I had one of those
Yes.
moments as well where I was just stressed out trying to do everything, and I was just trying to do all this stuff, and I know how to melt down about something. And I said to my husband, like, I'm just trying to make everyone happy. And he's like, but we're not happy unless you're happy.
Yes.
And I was like,
Yes.
oh. And
I
he's like,
know.
that's all that makes me happy. He's like, I don't care if the house is messy, but if you're like singing and dancing and you're happy, then I don't care. But if the house is clean as and you're falling apart, then that's not going to make me happy. I was like, oh,
Right.
okay. So yeah,
Yeah. We don't
we put
realize
ourselves first.
that.
No, you think like you're serving everyone, you've got to make them all comfortable, but they're not comfortable unless we are.
Right.
Mm.
Right. Yeah. And it's so funny because it's so easy. I mean, it's a little toxic, but it's so easy to just blame it on all that big to-do stuff, right? Oh, I got to do this and I got to do that and I got to be this and I got to be that. And I just don't, I'm just like, no, you don't
Yeah.
have to do, you don't have
Unsubscribe from
to.
that. Yeah.
Like you, if you want to, okay, that's a different, that's another layer. If you want to do that, do you want to go do that? Or could you look at it differently? I just recently had a client and we were talking about the need for her to be still and to bring some stillness in her life. And she said, well, I just work all the time. And I have to get up early and I have to go to work. And I said, okay, we're talking 5 minutes that would just be beneficial. Do I think that 20 minutes would be spectacular? Okay, yeah. But let's just talk about 5 minutes where you are not buzzing around. Where is that? You have 5 minutes, so you can't tell me that, because I said you can find it in the shower if you need to. Take 5 more minutes in the shower. You can get out of the shower and just stand in the warmth of that bathroom with the towel around you for 5 minutes breathing. We can find 5 minutes. And so once we started to approach it that way, I said, if you don't want to do it, that's a totally different approach, and we can start there too. But I'm going to call you out on the fact that you're telling me you can't, because no, you can. You're choosing not to. That's a different area. That's a different, again, let's get to the root of why you really don't want to do it or why it's not. And to be honest, when we really dig into roots, what we find is people are just scared of results. They're scared of change. They're scared of the unknown, right?
Yeah,
and
I didn't know who I was. Like when I stopped, I was like, but then what do I enjoy? Like,
yes,
what do I do with that
you don't even
stillness
know
that I didn't
yourself.
know? And I was like,
Yes,
ugh. Yeah.
yes.
But that's when
What
dreams
if
came in. So that was helpful. They're always
yeah,
telling me what
it's
I want to
like,
do.
yeah. Sometimes I'm like, well, someone just tell me. Just tell me. I don't want to have to think for myself, right?
Add it
It's
to
so
my
much
to-do list.
easier. Yeah. Can someone just write down and send me a note and tell me what I need to be thinking about myself? It would be so much easier. But when I have to do it, then I have to take responsibility. And then it's my truer self, my essence coming through. And I think we are more scared of our truth and our divine selves and our divine essence and our purity and we are more afraid of that coming through than we are the other stuff. The other stuff, our brains are wired to manage and problem solve that.
Until we dip our toe into that, I think people are scared. It's like, you don't know what to expect. They don't know who that inner essence is. Like that's like letting a stranger into the house, because they're like, who is that? But then as soon as you do give yourself that space, it's like this, your soul pops out. It's like, I'm here.
Yes. And to me, no, and to me, it's way more peaceful. It's more calming. It's relaxing. It's the nothing and the everything and the everything and the nothing. I mean, it makes sense. And it's not like I think so much we kind of like trick ourselves into, oh, what does that really mean? Like accept all of you. And it's like, well, it's not weird. I mean, I know it sounds weird, accept all parts of you, but it's more just about what if it was just about like, go sit at the table with everything about yourself, or go sit on a couch with every part of you and snuggle all in to watch that movie. Like that's really the example. That's really the imaginative example there, is just get to know everything about you. When I'm hungry and I'm tired, you better stay away from me. I'm not good. Like, and if I'm working on
like,
something,
don't shame that part, because I think that's what it was for me. It was like, well, I know that, but that's a bad thing. So I'd shame that part about me. And it's like, no, that's a human thing. Like you're allowed to be grumpy when you're hungry.
And you're allowed to be judgmental, because your brain and mind are kind of, that's being judgy and like is just really noticing the contrast of something. We just don't have the language for, okay, so I'm seeing the contrast in what I want and what someone else has, but instead we just are like, whatever, that is so ridiculous, because that's the language we know, right?
Yeah.
So it's just about being open to, sometimes there was this experience. My daughter and I were driving to a football game to meet my husband and my other sons, and we were running a little behind, and she and I are gabbing, and there's traffic everywhere. And the human side of me came out. Some lady pulled up and she was not going fast, and I was trying to get over, and she was giving me the look, and I was like this. So I just let some nasty, not cool words come out. And I looked over at my daughter, and because it's not my norm necessarily, but it's there and it does come out. And we started laughing so hard. And she was like, I don't ever think I've heard you ever act like that. And I was like, I know, wasn't it so much fun? Like, I didn't even care. I just was like, this was so fun to be this like, rah, 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 whatever, And I think if we just enjoyed some of that differences in
Yes,
us, some of those not cool parts, just enjoy them. They're funny. They're funny when you get down to it, The human nature is just hilarious. The
it
human
is
in us is just funny in the way we see life, I think.
definitely. I wanted to ask you because you said you're a trained medium. Do you get like spirits coming to you in your dreams or people trying to communicate from the other side through your dreams?
Sometimes I have, and sometimes it's it's more of a like it's more of I'm awake and it's happening. Sometimes it's come through my dreams, more personally, like if someone comes in and then I can personally know something happened or something like that. Mostly it's um it's in that very lucid state that images will come through of
Mm.
people talking to me, and I'll be like, "Ooh, I can't even concentrate on all you people, go away." So you know,
Yeah, I
it's
was just
mostly
wondering
when
if they bug
yeah.
you.
So there's been a couple, like sometimes I'll have that feeling and I'll be like, no, I'm in the middle, like, no, go
Mm.
out of here. I'm not doing all this. Or I'll just have this, like, I'll be walking down the street and I'll just have this moment where I'm like, I feel like 100,000 people are staring at me because I feel that sense. And then I'll be like, no, I'm not doing all that. So I very early on learned how I had to turn it out because I had 4 kids and I wasn't in a place where I could like navigate all that necessarily. And I think there was a part of me that didn't want to. I didn't want that to be the only thing I did. So I kind of shoved it aside. It's coming back into my life a little bit more. So I don't know, talk to me in a year or so and we'll see where I'm at then with it because I've shoved it aside a lot. Um, I think because I had kids at an age where they were like, "You do what, mom? Like you can do what, mom?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, how am I going to explain all these things? Life is too much. I can only do so much." So, I've learned to tune out a lot of stuff and I just don't go down that path. I feel like there's like a gazillion other mediums. Just go to those people. I'm busy.
Yes,
I'm busy right now.
you're
I
busy.
got something else I'm doing.
Excellent. So you provide Dreamwork sessions. How could someone who's interested in doing this get in touch with you?
Just email me. You can go on the website and email me. We shifted some of the website around to make it just more simple. So email is probably the best way you can go through, or find me on Instagram and DM me and we can work through that.
Great. Cool. I'll put your
Yeah,
links in the show notes below so that anyone listening can just
perfect.
find you very easily. Is there anything else that you want to talk about before I sign off? Something that I haven't covered or anything like that?
Oh my gosh, I think we've covered so much stuff. This has been really
Really
incredible.
good.
Yeah, really great conversation. I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
I've loved it so much. So thank you, Kristi, for sharing your wisdom and passion with us and for opening up a world where dreams are not just a part of sleep, but a gateway to understanding and transformation. To everyone listening, I hope that today's episode inspires you to explore your own dreams and perhaps even decode the messages your subconscious mind is eager to share. Don't forget to follow me on social media and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so that you never miss an episode of the Dream Hub podcast. And I look forward to bringing you more conversations that light up the mind and stir the soul. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep exploring, and keep asking deep questions.